FM Radio Talk, and we're still having the hottest of conversations here on H.O.T. I'm your host, JC Tevez. Let me ask you a question. Do you like to bike? Do you maybe have to bike? Are you one of them? The thousands of bikers on the road to work, to home, to the mall, to the mountains, for transportation, for occupational purposes. The list goes on and on. It's practically a pandemic phenomenon. The explosion of bikers on the Philippine streets and roads, not to mention the mountain trails as well. Most of them love to do it. It is a passion, but many were forced to do it because of the lockdown times, to get to work, to reach a destination, because there's no public transportation or as an occupation delivering goods. And they've grown to love it as well. Heard on Thursdays to share his view on biking in these quarantine times and to give us tips on safe and happy bicycling, street biking, mountain and trail biking. We welcome back one of our most popular YouTubers in the bike scene and biking enthusiast, Mark Moore of Make a Mark. What's going on, Mark? Thank you for joining us once again.
Hey JC, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
How's it going, man? We last year had you on the show in August of last year. That was like at the height of everyone who didn't know what was going on. So that was about 6 months ago. So now that we've moved forward 6 months and people are getting more used to the rules and regulations and biking. What's new in the biking scene? What's changed in the last 6 months?
Well, in the last 6 months, a lot of change, especially with the protocols, of course, the IKF protocols. Things are getting a little. The restrictions are being lifted recently, and the destinations are starting opening up, but not all of them. But most of the accessible in the destinations here in Metro Manila are starting to open up, and that's kind of good. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen they especially when it comes to recreational travel, they seem to be, like you said, opening up the doors a little bit more. But when it comes to biking, what restrictions now do you feel like have made it or the ease of restrictions have made it easier on you and your fellow cyclists? Has there been a rule change at all? Because I remember last time we talked in August, they were proposing some rules that you and the rest of the cyclists we talked to weren't super big on. I don't remember the rule in question, but has there been something that has made it easier for you and the rest of your peers?
Basically, the support from the LGUs for example, in Rizal, there was a time that they wanted to implement cyclists to wear face shields, and that's pretty hard, especially that you're actually already wearing a face mask and then you're wearing a face shield. Not only it is a hazard for your, it impedes your vision, especially at night. Yeah, but good thing it wasn't really fully implemented and was lifted right away. But other than that, people are starting to ride their bikes again actually lately, and every weekend, especially in Rizal, that's where I recently did a long distance ride. Saturdays and Sundays are starting to get back to normal.
Okay, that's good news, right? I imagine during this time. So, but how do you view this upward trend of bicyclers, or I don't know, cyclists? Sorry, cyclists on the road. Cyclists on the road. I mean, we did say it in the introduction that since the pandemic started, you must have seen a huge increase in the number. So, what's the bike community like now? Has there been a growth in maybe Facebook groups, Facebook pages? I'm sure you're a part of a few, and of course, you have your YouTube channel, which we'll discuss in a bit. But what is the cycling? I guess the cycling, maybe not economy, but the cycling world
community
cycling community like right now.
Well, definitely, the population grew a lot, and especially since the pandemic, a lot of non-cyclists started, looking into riding bikes for work and leisure and workout. And yeah, you're right. There are new Facebook groups that are emerging since the pandemic. Well, for me, that's I'm really happy about it because at first, when people started looking into bikes as a form of transportation and leisure, I'm really happy about it because now people are starting to realize the importance, the essence, and the value of these two-wheeled machines that we love riding, and it's not just for utility for just for your transportation. There's a lot, really a lot more to it, and I've seen people who came from just to ride their bike to work, who are now
Mm.
actually riding trails,
Trail.
exploring different locations that they haven't gone to. This time they're going with their bike. People are actually enjoying. So I'm happy about it. And but of course there are things that we would really like to encourage and educate those newcomers or newbies into cycling, and
Yeah.
that's what we're
Actually,
doing as content creators as well. Actually,
yeah. That's what I was going to ask you. Do you? I'm sure someone who's been doing this for years now, even before the upward trend in number of cyclists on the road. You've been doing this for a while. So when you saw all these people coming, I'm sure you must have also had a little bit of maybe pretensions or skepticism regarding like, oh my God, there's gonna be so many new riders, and there are so many, the cycling world. I'm sure there's a lot of maybe not secrets, but ins and outs that you have to learn. Every
mm.
year that you're cycling, you're on the road, you learn more tricks and you learn more tools. So on your YouTube channel, is that what you're doing? You're helping people out who might just be new to the biking to the cycling world.
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is mostly about trail riding, but I also recently went to the topics of for newbies, for general cyclists, basic tips that they probably need to know about when they plan to buy a bike or go for a ride. What are the things that the do's and don'ts that they need to remember, and yeah, those type of stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when it comes to the newbies, yeah, one of the plans that I plan to produce, I mean, the content I plan to do is to,
Content part.
yeah, to really educate those who are just really new to the cycling world, to
Okay.
because a lot of I've seen a lot of posts lately about people not knowing what to do and all that. So yeah.
So basically, you're gonna be like the mentor for all these cycling newbies.
Yeah, in a way, I'm really including that in my priority content. So
Okay.
yeah.
So maybe you could maybe preface it a little bit for the people listening on here. I know there might be too much to talk about right now during this interview, but what are some basic things that you would tell a new rider, somebody who wants to get into riding? What are the maybe
Mm.
the key highlights that you would tell them?
All right. So it depends. Are we talking about road cycling, biking to work, or trail riding?
Let's go with the biking to work because I feel like
Mm.
most people now who would try to get a bike like you said, it's really convenient and it's been something that people have been looking towards because maybe they don't want to spend any more on public transportation or they don't trust public
Mm.
transportation. Let's just do the average everyday cycle to work commute.
All right. So of course, first you got to get a bike. Well, for me, my advice would be the perfect bike to start would be a mountain bike, because basically mountain bike can do it all, and um, it's one of the cheapest type of bikes that are available in the market right now. There's a lot of entry level brands that are coming out since the pandemic. Okay, that's one. Um, of course, one of the things that I would advise my fellow cyclists is ride defensively. Right, that's one of
Extensively.
the, yeah, defensively, because um, most of the cyclists that I've seen are riding aggressively, and it's dangerous, you know.
What
And
exactly is an aggressive rider versus? I mean, is it the same as like when you're driving in a car?
yeah,
Because you know how
yeah, yeah.
you say drive
It's
defensively,
yeah,
similar.
yeah, it's similar.
Okay,
So,
so ride
uh,
defensively.
mm, me personally, you have to be aware of your surroundings, especially you are in the road with four-wheeled vehicles,
Hmm.
and um, it's for your own safety as well, you know, because sometimes there are blind spots, and you must look before you turn. Those are the common mistakes that people will do on their bike. And of course, in line with that, um, please follow traffic rules. All right.
Traffic rules. Are there
Yeah.
any? Is there a cycling road handbook? Because I'm not sure if there is some sort of governing body regarding, because you know you don't need a license, right, to
Yeah.
get a bicycle,
Mm.
use it. Is there some sort of rule book? Because I know that I've seen cyclists on the road using hand signals,
Mm.
using I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what else they would be using, but I've seen them use hand signals. So where did they? Is there a place that you learn how to do these common cycling techniques?
Well, these are you can find them in Google, of course, if you search about it. The road etiquettes, the road signaling, the road, how you signal, what does this mean. You basically find them on the internet right nowadays, but there's really like what you said, there's no uh,
Governing, right?
governing, so there's
Or rule
really
book?
not yet a
Uh-huh.
uh, specific for the Philippine roads that are available. It's more of a general
Knowledge.
knowledge, and of course responsibility etiquette for the cyclist to really know.
Got it. Got it. Is there, like you said, there's no governing body yet, but you kind of said it as if you kind of are anticipating some sort of group or something, or maybe you know of a potential future cycling association, or maybe you're part of something like that. Is there a group that's trying to maybe enforce or maybe make the cycling community more official in terms of the government, etc.?
Um, right now, from what I've seen in the Facebook groups, I've seen lawyers who are also cyclists, and uh, I'm not sure with the other people who are involved in it um, in particular, but they're pushing for development in the law about cyclists. They're trying to push development in bike uh, bike lanes and other what do you call this, infrastructures
Mhm.
for cycling. So I've heard, I think, um, someone pushing for a network of bike lanes, which is
Okay.
really good. Yeah, but I'm not sure yet. So I haven't really talked to these people directly, but I'm sure there are people really concerned and who are um,
Working
doing
on it in the background somewhere.
working on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned infrastructure, and because that would be for me my biggest apprehension when it comes to riding. Because I think I told you this during our interview 6 months ago. I actually had a bicycle before, but I could only really ride what I deem in a safe areas where maybe there were bike lanes or what
Mm.
could be a bike lane, maybe wider sidewalks if there were no bike lanes, but I could not bike from city to city because there were no bike lanes to get me there safely. So has there been a new set of bike lanes implemented throughout the main thoroughways, the main roads, EDSA or C5, the places the roads that get you from place to place within
Mm.
Metro Manila? Are there may mga daanan ba, or do you have to go other ways still? Do you have to find back roads?
Well, ever since the pandemic, there was a time that they um, put a bike lane along EDSA. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
there used to be a bike lane along it, so or there still is. It's by using the sidewalk. There's a what do you call that? A barrier, a
Yes,
steel barrier. But the problem with that is the it's too narrow, and
very narrow.
it's basically not functional to ride
Mhm.
that. And then you'll be riding. I mean, there are pedestrians walking, so people or cyclists would tend to ride the main road. And then last year they implemented or they painted a bike lane along EDSA. But uh, right now, I think it's erased
Really?
because of yeah.
Oh, no.
I don't know if they're maintaining that, but the last time I rode EDSA, I couldn't see I couldn't find the paint
Visible
that
link.
visible
Oh.
bike lanes anymore. And then there's a lot of what do you call that, steel plates along EDSA.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, there since the pandemic, local governments implemented their own protected bike lanes. Like I've seen in Pasig, there are main roads or sections that they put up pop up bike lanes where they put the orange cones, and there
Mhm.
are places that are I don't know how you call that. That's it's fixed. It's bolted, actually bolted on the road. And
Okay.
then there's a recent viral issue about a road somewhere. I'm not sure if it's in Metro Manila that they actually put concrete on the road to divide the portion for the cyclists and the motorists. Definitely, there's been a development, but um, in terms of safety and convenience, it's really not enough because they're really not yet connected like a network wherein you that will be convenient for cyclists to go through. It yeah, it's still not. We're not there yet.
We're not there. So, for example, if I wanted to go from QC to, let's say, Makati, north or north to south, there's really no efficient way yet to
Yeah,
do that
if
on
it were
road.
me, I'm used to riding the EDSA,
Okay.
or you can go through Mandaluyong,
Uh,
somewhere there, Green Hills. Uh, those are the routes that you can take if you're going from QC to Makati.
okay. Got it. Got it. So what would you now? You mentioned that you're used to riding on EDSA. What is your for you, Mark? What is your typical ride in a day? I mean, do you bike every day? Do you bike to work, or what do you normally do when you ride your bike besides going to your trails? Your long rides. Is there a daily bike route for you?
All right, so in my latest episode, I revealed that I haven't been biking in the last almost 5 months.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so right now I'm starting to do a weekly ride for
Mm.
to improve my endurance and to get my stamina back. But right now I'm not really riding to work anymore because you we work from home now.
Mhm.
You I ride my bike to places to like do errands basically, and uh, bike ride with friends, but not really cycling to work lately.
Okay.
And I also mentioned that I haven't been riding for 5 months. I mean,
Mhm.
almost 5 months. One of the reasons also is because as a content creator, well, I would say that I've built a following. It's part of also my responsibility to really, not promote just going out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's part of your responsibility to influence your reach to do the right thing.
That's
So
good.
it's part of that and part of work as well.
Got it. Got it. Makes a lot of sense, and it's very responsible of you. So let's talk about your YouTube channel. Prior to the pandemic, let's talk about the content on your videos because I'm sure there's people listening right now who have never heard of Mark Moore and the videos that you make. So first, let's start with the first videos that you ever posted. What made you get into making a YouTube channel about cycling and mountain biking in the first place?
Yeah. So I guess I could start from how I got into riding. Um, Back in 2015, traffic was really horrible getting from Taguig to Makati. You know, crossing BGC to Ayala is will take you 1 hour, 1 hour and a half.
Yeah.
Um, and I used to take there wasn't angkas back then.
Hmm.
There's what we call habal-habal, and I
Yes.
would and I would ride that, and that's pretty expensive daily.
Yeah.
So
It gets pricey. Gets pricey.
yeah, and then so I thought of actually my dad actually suggested that I try riding a bike to work, and it
Hmm.
will be a form of workout and exercise. So that's how I bought. I decided to buy my first bike. It was a surplus bike from a Japan surplus shop that sells
Hmm.
bikes. And then 2016 January. That's when I first committed to riding my bike to work every day. And in less than a month, I lost 10 kilograms.
Dang, 20
Yeah,
pounds,
man.
22.
Yeah. Uh, So after that, I really enjoyed it, and I discovered trails. That there was a trail near my place, which is the Army Bike Trail and the Heroes Trail.
Hmm.
And after that, I met people who are into enduro and downhill riding, trail riding. So ever since then, I got hooked because I met a lot of people, and I got to ride different trails. I got to go to different mountains. Um, that's when I realized that this community, this particular riding scene, wherein that they're focused in trail riding and downhill rides, they're not very known or popular to the riding community or the cycling community here in the Philippines. And people, especially my friends, with are 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 not aware of what I've been doing or what I do
Right.
when I ride
Hmm.
my bike. So I figured I'm having fun. I love this. And whenever I ride, I feel like you when you love something so much, you get stoked on something you do.
Yeah,
You feel that you have to share this to people
I
because
get you.
and understand that people would also love to have this experience. So
Experience.
that's basically why I decided to make a YouTube channel, to share the experience, to share that hey, the Philippines, we're rich with mountains, we're rich with natural trails. There are these local communities that actually got these amazing locations that you guys should know about and visit one day. Not just
Mhm.
hiking. You can There are actually places that you can ride your bike.
Yeah.
And um, my vision for that, my long term vision for that is it'll be one of the um, ways for us to get tourism, into these local areas, local communities,
Hmm.
to develop these trails and eventually become bike parks. They're actually world class standard. So that's the long term vision and the reason, the why I created my YouTube channel is to basically introduce the world of mountain biking to my fellow Filipinos who are used to riding the roads and who are looking for a new and awesome adventure. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, and it's working because you've amassed a little over 31,000 YouTube subscribers to as of today, which means that people really are interested, and I really admire your vision for making it something that the Philippines could be known for, trails. So why
Mm.
don't you enlighten some of the people, myself included, what exactly is a trail? Because when you imagine trail, I just think of maybe like a dirt path that is fixed. But I'm sure it's more than that, and I know you're gonna hype it up for us. But what exactly does one need to? What's it like going on a trail? And also, do you need to be super athletic to do these things, or can is it also a very casual thing that you can do if you just know how to ride a bike?
Yeah. Okay. So there are different types of trails. So there's a what we used to ride is a downhill trail or downhill track. That's
Mhm.
a very technical and advanced type of trail. And then there are normal bike trails for beginners, wherein, for example, fill in best trails. That's very beginner friendly because there are a lot of sections where beginners can ride. Basically, a trail is, yeah, it's a here in the Philippines. The common trails we have are natural trails, wherein it's basically what people hike.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but um, yeah, it's off road basically. There's what we call a single track. Yeah, like what you said, a single path.
Hmm.
It's what in our world we call it a single track because when you call it a single track, usually it only could accommodate one rider at a time or one person at
Got
a
it.
time. So
Okay.
yeah, basically what you will encounter in a trail are different types of terrain, different types of soil, um, a lot of roots, a lot of rocks.
Are there
Um,
schools or anything? As someone who's a seasoned rider like you, I'm sure you already know these trails, know these paths. But if you were to drop someone who's never been in there, they just drop them in there with a bike, would they be able to find their way around the trail, or could they potentially get lost in the mountains, for example?
okay, if it's in a mountain, for example, away, really far away from a civilization, there's a big chance that they could get lost,
Okay.
especially if there are a lot of routes
Mm.
in the trail. But most of the trails we have here, there's one common exit. So basically, if you follow the path, it'll take you to where you started from or
Mhm.
the exit of that trail. I would not advise for someone who doesn't have any experience or for a first time cyclist to be dropped on a trail out of nowhere.
Okay.
Because yeah, it it requires skill and yeah, a certain level of athleticism to be able
Okay.
to ride the trails.
All right. Also, you did say earlier in the interview that you recommend for first timers to get a mountain bike, and these are perfect for these trails that we're talking about.
Mm.
But when you're as someone who's never shopped for a bike, what would be the questions that you would ask, or regarding where first actually let's talk about where do you recommend buying a mountain bike? Because
Mm.
with the pandemic, maybe options might be limited in person. Do you recommend buying online at all? Is that something that you would ever do, or do you recommend really going in person, getting a feel for the bike?
Okay. So if you are, it depends. So if you are someone who doesn't know anything about bikes, who've never ridden bikes or never owned a bike, and it's gonna be your first time to purchase a bike, I would not suggest buying online if you're gonna
Okay.
be on your own. All right.
Hmm.
But if you have a friend that could help you with buying the bike, like for example, getting you the right size, getting you the right type of bike, that could be an option. But if you are going to buy a bike and it's going to be the first time, I would suggest that you visit a shop.
A
The
shop.
shop are
Okay.
actually accommodating people as of date. That's for you
Okay.
to be able to get a feel of the bike.
Hmm.
It's important that you get the right size
Yeah.
because it's for your safety as well, and of course your comfort.
Hmm.
And yeah, and you will be able to see the options that you'll have when you go to a shop. But if you are a seasoned rider, an enthusiast, yeah, definitely you can purchase online. I've got friends who I know friends who bought their bikes from websites known from known brands
Mhm.
who came or shipped from abroad.
Got it.
Yeah.
What are the reputable bike shops? Because there are, I've seen even bikes being sold in some department stores, but they don't
Mm,
look super legit and whatever. So as
yeah.
someone who's very familiar with bikes and where to purchase them, do you recommend any shops? Yeah, I mean, you can name drop your favorites if you want.
Okay. All right. So the shops that I've visited when I started riding were so in there's what we call dance bike shop. It's in along Pasong Tamo. There's also Bike Town Cyclery. These guys know their stuff because the owner is actually a cyclist, and the mechanics are my fellow riders who ride the enduro and downhill scene. Of course, RD Cycles. Um, they're located over in Eastwood. They uh, they they their dealer. They bring in GT bikes. This is the bike brand that they ride.
Mhm.
There's also Life Cycle. There's one in Green Hills, I believe, and also in along Macapagal. Uh, what else? In Eastwood, there are bike shops over there that I would recommend because people there are know the bikes and would recommend you the proper type of bike.
Okay, great. So I guess the question on everyone's mind now would be, what is a good price range? Do you really get, the more expensive the bike, the better? And because usually that's what people think when they get a car. So when it comes to bikes, can you get what is a good price range where you think if it goes below this price range, it's probably not a good bike? Or is that such a thing? Is there such a thing?
All right. So when buying a bike, first you need to identify where you're going to use it. So if you're going to use it on the road, just a utility to get from point A to point B, and these are paved roads and not really stressful for the bike.
Mhm.
Um, there are probably a lot of entry level bikes that came in to the Philippines in the market at around less than 10,000, 5,000 to from
Right.
5,000 above and below 10,000. That's a good price range
Mhm.
normally, but those are entry level. But if you would like to try riding trails, there are whole bikes that are available for um, I think not sure if it's still at 15,000 up to 20 to 30,000. That's
Mhm.
a good decent entry level bike. But if you would like to really invest on this leisure and for long term riding,
Yeah.
yeah, you go up to 40,000 to 100,000 or more.
Damn.
Yeah.
How much is your bike worth, Mar? Are you willing to share, or are you just gonna?
Well, yeah, actually, I actually featured it in my channel already. But my build, so I didn't buy everything as a whole. So
Right.
it took me about two 2 years or 3
Years.
years to be able to build. I mean, to build the bike that I have right now. So it
Mhm.
when I calculated and take note, about 80% of the parts of my bike are secondhand.
Okay.
All right. So if my calculation were correct, I am at around 200,000
Two hundred
plus.
thousand on two wheels. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. You mentioned secondhand. Let's talk about that. Do you Where do you find secondhand? Wait, actually, let's talk about secondhand bicycles in general. Is that a good idea for a new rider? Secondhand bicycles, not like the whole thing, not just parts. Because let's talk about parts in a bit. But if I was gonna buy a bike and maybe I wanted to save some money, would secondhand resellers be something that I should look into, or is it too risky for someone who doesn't know anything about
All right.
bicycles?
Okay. When I started, my friends advised me to to check out secondhand bikes because that's where you will actually find bang for the buck deals
Mhm.
because there are a lot of people that are that are just upgrading and they just want to let go of the bike, and there are chances that you'll encounter that. But if you have friends that who are riding and probably selling their bike, that's a good place to start because you can trust these people, these
Sure.
people,
Yeah.
and of course they want you to be safe. So yeah, it's a good way to start because you get cheaper bikes that are better in quality,
Mhm.
but it
Are all
depends also.
Are all mountain bikes upgradable? Like you said, it took you around 2 years of maybe consistently upgrading your parts to get the bike of your dreams. So if I were to get any mountain bike, let's say from that price range you mentioned earlier, 5 to 10,000, could I upgrade that to a 200,000 peso beast of a bicycle, or are there certain like restrictions when you get a cheaper frame, kumbaga frame?
Yeah. um if you start at that price range, not necessarily, but yeah, it's upgradable definitely if you buy the modern type of frames, especially. Um, that's We can talk a little about that in detail probably one of my contents. But
Great.
yeah, there are the modern types of frames are upgradable definitely. You can change every part of your bike, from the
Hmm.
wheels, the suspension forks, the handlebar, the drivetrain. All of that is replaceable. If you buy, the modern type of bike that around that
Okay.
price
Good to know.
range. But I wouldn't think that would reach up to 200,000.
Okay. What are the most expensive part? I mean, on your bike, what is the most expensive part that people usually invest in? And people who are who take up this hobby or this passion. What's the thing that people usually save up for? Because in a car, usually people want to fix, soup up their engine. What
Mm-hmm.
what is the what is the most expensive upgrade on a mountain bike that cyclists look forward to buying?
First is the frame and the fork.
The frame. The fork. What is the fork? For people who are not in
It's
the know.
it's the one that holds your front wheel in front, and where your handlebar is also connected for steering.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
like
those
the
are the most
motorcycle.
right, right.
Yeah, yeah, that's the fork. Basically, that's the main parts that are expensive in the mountain bike.
Mm.
For us enduro and downhill riders, the frame, because it's usually full suspension, and the fork as well depends on the tier of the fork that you're getting. There are, of course, a lot more expensive ones. One would be the Fox racing forks, racing
Mhm.
shocks, wherein you get the more expensive the fork is, you get more adjustments. I mean, tweaks. That's basically for advanced riders. But yeah,
Okay,
frame and fork, that's the most expensive part of the bike.
great. So people who get into this, they do all these things. Is there? I'm sure you've hit some snags. You might have crashed your bike, wiped out once in a while. What are there insurance? Is there insurance or anything that you can use on your bike, like like bike insurance? Is there such a thing, or do you just have to pony up and
Hmm,
pay for repairs?
good question. I haven't really um, researched about that, if it's
Okay.
available here in the Philippines.
Hmm.
Um, but there is usually a warranty. Depends on the bike brand on what
Okay.
they offer.
Great.
Some offer crash warranties. So if you crash your bike, they're willing to replace this part. Some
Nice.
only offers factory defects,
Okay.
And for carbon frames, they usually offer lifetime warranty. So yeah, that's a good
That's
deal.
good. That's a great deal. So
Yeah.
you know, summer's almost here, Mark. And before we come to the close of the interview, I'm sure you might have some suggestions for people who've heard you talk right now, and they're like, "Oh, man, I'm gonna get a bike. I'm gonna bike in the summer. I'm gonna get sexy. I'm gonna lose 10 kilograms like Mark did." What is the what do you think? What How would you maybe tell new bikers to spend their summer? What would you Where would you tell them to go?
Um, here in the Philippines, most of the people riding bikes are long distance riders. They like going to places with their bike. That's one.
Hmm.
People go to from Manila to Bicol on their bikes. Those types of
Wow.
rides, yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of within Metro Manila. There are a lot of sites and places that you can visit. Like for example, the Antipolo Church is one of the most famous destinations for long riders. There's also what they call the Kaibiang Tunnel. That's one of the most popular destination. Tagaytay. That's what people do mostly. But for trail riding, like us, there are quite a few here in Metro Manila, mostly in Rizal area, San Mateo, Binangonan Rizal. That's where we usually ride. Um, Also in Tagaytay, where in the recent Sea Games
Hmm.
was held. That's in Three Skulls, what we call Three Skulls Tagaytay. I forgot where it is exactly in Tagaytay, but it's pretty
Around
easy
the area.
to find if you search it on Google and the
Okay.
maps. Yeah.
Cool.
There's also other, like for example, actually the most recent ride that I went to was in Mount Patagin, which is in Alaminos, Laguna, somewhere south. There are locals that are building trails that are really nice. And if you
Nice.
guys would check my Instagram, I just posted the great view that you'll get if you climb up Mount Patagin, and it's awesome.
Cool. Actually, we're scrolling. If you're checking us out live on Facebook, facebook.com/rx931, you can see all of Mark's social media on there. Mark, with that being said, speaking of social media, as we come to a close, what groups would you recommend? Because you did say that there are a lot of groups of riders who maybe plan long distance rides, and you yourself talk very highly about the biking community and how they're very supportive of each other. Are there groups that you would highly recommend? I'm sure there's so many on Facebook, but maybe ones that you're a part of or ones that you would vouch for.
Aha. Well, actually, it depends on where they're located.
Okay.
What's the name of the? It's I think it's we have what the Facebook group that we're a part of is a Filipino mountain bike, Philippine mountain bike, something like that.
Okay.
Sorry, wait, hold on.
But do you recommend maybe searching geographically? So if you're, let's say you live in Pasig, look for a more local Pasig Facebook group for bikers,
Yeah,
something like
because
that.
in these common Facebook groups like the Filipino mountain biking
Yeah.
Facebook group, where you can
Yeah.
actually type in and ask for people to, if hi, yeah, I'm from Laguna, I'm from Bulacan, I'm looking for a group who does these long distance riding. You can actually do that, and people are actually friendly and are very accommodating,
Even for
especially.
first time riders, even
Yeah,
for novices.
yeah, but
Cool.
I recommend that you find someone you actually know, because
No.
yeah, that'll be safer.
Okay. Well, I mean, people are listening. They now know you in a way. So, of course, please let everyone know, Mark. Tell them about your social media pages and, of course, your YouTube channel. And you already mentioned your future plans for maybe a series about for helping out new writers. But do you have any other plans for your content creation in the upcoming months?
Yeah, so apart from helping newbies for general cyclists, the tips, also starting to, when I mentioned that I'm starting to ride after 5 months, I am doing a series wherein I ride different tracks and trails, and I share tips for those who would like to try trail riding. So as I am trying to learn the basics once again, I take them with me with my content and share them what I learn on the spot and the things that I've realized during that ride. So it's basically um, uh, wherein I discuss the tips, the do's and don'ts for new trail riders. And yeah, I think also different places are starting to open up, and I will also be featuring different trails from different locations. As I mentioned, the recent one was in Alaminos, the Mount Patagin. Great community. They're very friendly over there. So yeah, that's probably gonna be my next episode.
Awesome. So
And
they just search
yeah,
Mark Moore on YouTube. Tama?
yeah, yes, on YouTube, Mark Moore. That's Mark Moore on YouTube. Mark at Mark Moore 05 on Instagram, and on Facebook it's Make a Mark.
Make a
So
mark. And of
yeah,
course, it's on facebook.com/rx931. If you ever catch this interview maybe later on in the future, the live video is still up. You can see it scrolling at the bottom. Mark, anyone you want to say hello to? Friends, family, your fellow cyclists? There are actually a couple people who are in the Facebook comments saying, "Idol Sir Mark." So I'm sure you have a lot of fans out there that you want to shout out.
all right. So there's quite a lot. So I'll go through
Go
them
ahead, go
really
ahead.
quickly.
Of course.
All right. First, of course, my fellow GT Philippines ambassador Marvin, Jessica, Craig, Kiara, Kael, Jazz, Gab Amigo, Des Buncho, Janelle Saulog, Patricia, Sophia, Sir Hector, and Coach Ellie. And of course, my ABR team, ABR family. These guys are responsible for me getting into enduro racing and downhill riding. Joed, Wally, Rebo, Eric, Carlo, Julian, Franz, Rick, Ken, Mox, J, Miko, Baron, Chino, Sho, Jean, Mark, Marl, PJ, Moyen, Vincent. And shout out to my fellow content creators, Zab Trail Rides, Anli Ahon, Jer Victor, the psychologist, Pajak ni Juan, Pajak all the way, MCMTB, Girol, Bike Check PH, Bike to Work PH. Those are actually good channels that you guys can check out. Also, shout out to my family, mom and dad. Look, I'm on on the radio.
Made it.
I made it. My siblings, Kevin, James, June, Tom, Lyle, Leo, and my Baguio buddies. Actually, one of my Baguio buddies is a big fan of yours, JC.
Really?
Yeah. If you could give him a greeting, his name is Jasser.
Jasser?
Jasser. Yeah.
What's up, Jasser?
Uh,
Oh,
hope he's
small world.
watching. There's also Levi, Ina, Ray, Roy, McCoy, Glo, Ed, Julian, Jet, MJ, Ian, Jem, Syrian, Mel, Jed. Shout out to all of you guys, and of course my Joyride Enduro team family. These guys are the guys I ride and dig. They actually help develop trails in Army, and now they're actually helping out in a trail in Binangon, Rizal, what we call the antenna hill downhill track.
Nice.
So there, I guess that's everyone.
Man, you are the first person that came prepared with the shout out. You usually be like,
Yeah.
oh, shout out to I don't know who to. Man, I love that. Came prepared. Thank you very much, Mark, for joining us on the show, man. We always look forward to having you, and hopefully, once the pandemic ends, we'll have you back. You can tell us more about the updates in the cycling world.
Yeah, man. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me, JC.
Yeah, thank you very much. Go check out his YouTube channel, Mark Moore. Find out more about that. Join us again next week for more hot conversations here on Heard on Thursdays. My name is JC Tevez. Have a wonderful evening and keep it locked in always here on The Monster. Good night, everyone.
Heard on Thursdays.